This is the Mental Metal Podcast, and I am your host, Coach Thomann. I'm a former athlete, teacher, coach, and athletic director that switched careers after surviving cancer and a stroke in the fall of 2020. But I'm also a dad of a son and a daughter that were successful high school athletes that went on to college. Now I use that experience along with my ICF coaching certification when helping teams, coaches, and athletes from all over the country. Each week, I will pose a specific question that will help coaches of all types better understand mental toughness. In the Mental Metal Podcast, coaches will learn to help their athletes overcome adversity without being the adversity they need to overcome. Hello, welcome, metalheads. It is your host, Coach Thomann. This is the Mental Metal Podcast. And once again, thank you for listening. It is my absolute pleasure to get to be on here and talk and have somebody to actually listen. I really enjoy putting this podcast out, and it's so fantastic for me to meet all these coaches and just hear their stories and hear how they're helping kid, and it just restores my faith, not just in humanity, but in the coaching and the teaching profession when I meet coaches that are so excited about helping young kids and doing it the right way. None of them do it perfect. Every guy or gal I've had on here has got their detractors. That's part of the job. It's the pain of leadership. But they're trying to do it the right way, and they're mostly doing that. And I just love that. And I love to get to meet them and just pick up all little tidbits. And my guest today is no exception to all this. He is a legendary high school coach from the state of Tennessee. His name's Troy Allen. And Troy's got over 500 wins all in the Middle Tennessee area. He started out at Hillsborough High School, and he had a record there of something like 149-77 over 6-year seasons as a young coach coming in is really good. Went to Mount Juliet High School, which didn't have a good track record for high school basketball, and had was there for 16 years and had multiple district titles, state level appearances there. And then he went on and he was the head coach at Green Hill High School, which was a new high school. So he's starting a program from scratch. And everybody you talk to about Troy Allen, when I'm doing the research, they all recognized his ability to create defensively sound and tough teams, and how he was always able to get his players to buy into that defensive mindset and be extremely tough and just get the most out of them. And you're going to hear about this in this podcast, this interview, just how he was able to do that. And I just really enjoy the interview because he did so many of the things the right way, and he treated the players like people. He treated them like individuals. He was trying to get them to all have the same goal and work as a team, but he understood that they were different people and reached out to them and dealt with some of the issues they were having and understood them as people. And just tried to make them the best people they could through basketball. And that's what it's all about, is to be able to do that. So we'll just jump into this interview. It's really good. Coach Troy Allen has a ton of really good stuff. So I hope you enjoy this episode of the Mental Metal. Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Metal Coaching. Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they could still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great. They're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Metal Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website and get started on the journey to a more confident and successful athlete with Mental Metal Coaching. And welcome back to the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and I'm here with I know you're going to blush, Coach, but I'm saying, and this is what other people have said, a legendary high school Tennessee coach. And I know I've looked a little bit of your stuff. I've listened to your video, your interviews, and I know that you're the kind of guy that's not going to enjoy that. But 500 plus wins, 30-year career. I mean, it's you've racked up some wins, and you've got a lot of friends, you've got a lot of fans, a lot of people that are like enjoy what you did and enjoy the coaching that you did. And I'm just thrilled to death to have you on the show. So welcome to the Mental Metal Podcast, Coach Troy Allen.
I appreciate it.
So I just for introduction's sake for the listeners, I had interviewed a coach that's a friend of mine now, Seth Massey. He's at Liberty Creek High School in Tennessee now. And he gave me your name and said, hey, this is a guy that was a absolute competitor. We fought each other, tooth and nail, a lot of good championship games. And he mentioned your name. And we'll get into this a little bit, but you're doing some consulting work on going into, now you're retired from coaching, but you're not retired from coaching, right? You just not beholden to a school district anymore. You go on your own. Yeah.
I don't have any rules anymore. It's pretty nice.
That's right.
So, yeah, I have set my own rules.
So you do some consulting work and you come and work with teams on defense and some stuff like this. And I don't know if Coach Massey told you this at all. But he said, I wanted him to come in because he always had these really tough, legendary teams. And I wanted to see if I can get some of that information from Coach Allen. But he said, but honestly, I didn't know what kind of guy he was going to be. But I thought, it's going to be worth my time to have him in. And he told me, he said, he feels like a lot of the persona that came with you when you were doing this, being this toughness thing, he felt like it was a little bit of production in the sense that, hey, you're actually kind of a nice guy. and you're really a nice guy who's also really interested in the mental part of the game and working and building players up, which is what I for some reason that surprised him. And I don't know, I don't want you to take offense to that or anything, but I thought it was interesting for him to say that, because I think sometimes at coaches we build a persona, and people don't on the outside don't necessarily understand. Well, they never know what it's like in the practice, right?
Yeah. I'm serious about it. I was serious about it. I still am, and it was more than a game to me, and I took it serious, and I took my team playing hard serious, and It was sort of no nonsense. I didn't get into all of some of the things that people get into these days, and I think my persona was that with a lot of people, but since I've started doing this other thing, and along the way too, I've made a lot of great friends. The reason I'm still hanging around basketball is because I love coaches. I love talking to coaches. I love being around coaches, and me and Seth have become good friends just because we both love ball and we like to talk about it.
You and me both, brother. That's my favorite part of this podcast is just getting to meet coaches, talk to coaches. It just I love the perception that coaches have and the way they go around things, and I honestly I like being able to help those coaches. So why, if you can remember, I know you retired and you had a 30-year career, but what got you into coaching in the first place?
Yeah, I was a player. I was a better baseball player than basketball player, but I grew up in Nashville, and my one of my best friends and a teammate from sixth grade on was Jerry Meyer, Don Meyer's son, and Coach Meyer was a legendary coach at Lipscomb University, and then he went to Minnesota Duluth, and so I grew up in that. I was at the elementary middle school of Lipscomb, which has a college connected to it. So I was at practice, I was at games, I was traveling on the road with Coach Meyer and Jerry, and I was just in it. Big time college basketball. I was right in the middle of it, and then fortunately, my 10th grade year, Lipscomb High School, because of Coach Meyer, probably hired a legendary coach and Mike Roller, and I got to play for him. And I was real fortunate to play for this great men throughout my life. My dad rigged my upbringing where I always played for the best coach in town in every sport. And, looking back on it, what he did for me was, it set me up for my career because of the men I was able to be around. But my high school career in baseball and basketball, baseball with Ernie Smith, who's a legend, and with Coach Roller. And, I got to college and I was still trying to play baseball a little bit. And then I figured out, I really can't do anything. All I can do is ball. And so it was a sort of a natural progression for me.
It's it's funny as you said that about your dad rigging your career so you always played for those coaches, which I get. And I'm not all that familiar with all those coaches, but I guarantee there were times when you were in high school that you didn't feel like it was a it
It was
was a
awful. It was awful.
it was that's what yeah.
It was terrible because, every day was, it was almost a fist fight. Every day it was work, and there wasn't a lot of fun until we got to the games, and it's like, oh yeah, that's why we do this. And but yeah, it was a lot of bad rides home. Not real happy about what I was having to do on the daily basis, but it was an incredible experience.
I always talk about that. It's anytime I'm working with a parent, a kid, I talk about if you want to feel the real emotion of high school athletics, it happens in the car ride home.
No, no doubt, no doubt.
It, it's
I had some bad ones. Let me tell you, some bad.
it's rough as a player, as a parent, as a coach. I just like we shut that door and it's like everybody's defenses let down, and
Yeah,
then there's some rough ones
there
there.
are,
So
there were, and I've had friends that coach their kids, and we talk about that. How do you let it go, and how do you not deal with it? You know, only on the court, blah blah blah. But I don't think that's really realistic because you're living that life,
it's
and
it's so hard.
yeah, it's a rough deal. And I've talked to, I've had quite a few friends that have done that, and some experiences have been incredible, some have been rough. So
It's
I don't
interesting
think I
because
would want to do it.
it's tough. At different times I coached my daughter, and I coached my daughter when she was in high school, and then I coached my son when he was in seventh grade, and they were just different. They were different people, right? So it affected them differently. My daughter was more like me, very emotional, and like we would have these. I mean, we would get into these arguments. Not that,
Yeah,
but my son just lets stuff go off of him. And, so I would say it and he'd just be like, okay, Dad. And whether he's listening or not,
Right.
I don't know, but he just didn't let it bother him. So it kind of depends. It just depends on the kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough thing to do.
Looking back on, I talk to a lot of parents about, that are mad because of they're not getting coached well, or they're getting coached too hard, or whatever any kid's situation is. But it's really not about how good you're getting coached or how bad you're getting coached. It's how you handle the experience and how you learn from the experience. You have a terrible coach, make the best of it, go to work every day, do your best, and you'll learn from it. You'll grow from it. If you have a great coach, take advantage of it. And I've had that conversation many, many times with people.
Because it's so useful. If a kid can learn to do that when they get to be an adult, you're going to have bosses you like. There's
Absolutely.
going to be bosses you don't like, and it's how your boss or how your coach deals with you is completely out of your control.
Absolutely.
You can't. But what you can do is how you respond to it.
That's right.
The sooner kids understand that, and some people never get that, Coach. So
Nope.
but if kids can learn that a little bit in high school, junior high, college, whatever, they're better prepared for life.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of sport to me.
Mhm.
I'm not your friend. I'm your coach. I'm your boss. And one day, hopefully, you'll look back and, be thankful of your experience with me, because I did hold you accountable. And, I was your boss, and you learned how to work with a boss and work for a boss. And that's a big part of it, I think, that's sometimes missed.
Oh, I agree. Now, I think the flip side is it doesn't mean that coaches get carte blanche to be
No, that's right.
absolute. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
But it's been done. I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's been done before, right? There's
sure.
coaches that yeah. So I just think that's but that it's fine in that. I think that as a coach, you progress on how to do that the right way too.
Oh gosh, over 30 years, how much I changed with how I worked with kids. And one of the things that my last, I don't know, 10 or 12 years, it really took me that long. It always sort of felt like it was me against the players, or the players were against me, or we weren't working together. And the last 10 years of my career, or however long, I really focused on, we're on the same team. I'm for you. I'm working for you. And I really think that, my greatest success were the last 10 years of my career, 10, 12 years. And I think that was a big part of that, me learning that, because I was sort of grew up where I didn't really like the coach, but, it was a sort of a necessary evil. And I didn't really want them to feel that way. I wanted them to be a part of it with me, and me with them.
If we translate that further, Coach, I think one of the things you grow up as a coach, it's you have to get to that point that realize the parents are the parents and the coaches, we're all on the same team and we want the same
Yeah,
thing.
that took
But
me
there's
even longer to figure out.
oh right. But it's because you butt heads at trying to figure out the right way to do it.
Right.
And of course you all, the parents are going to have an ulterior motive and they want to see their kid
Sure.
like be part of the plan more. But I think that's part of the trick of coaching is figuring that out. Okay, we all want the same thing. How do we
Right.
align? How do we get aligned?
Right.
And man, that's you're right. Like you're talking about, you had a 30-year career and you figured it out the last 10 or less. Like
Right.
and you're not it's not like you're a slow learner either. It's a tough
Well,
thing.
basketball is the trickiest of all to me. There's only 5 people playing, probably only 2 or 3 scoring. That's a tough deal. Football, you have opportunities to get kids on the field. Basketball, if you're going to come in and turn the ball over and not guard, you're not going to be able to play. Or you might have a role where you're not a scorer, like I was as a player. I didn't score. I was a screener, a defender, whatever. So it's really, really tricky. Shot select. Oh gosh, teaching shot selection to kids is probably the hardest thing we do. And parents understanding that John's son's scoring 25 and mine's scoring 2, but they're to me as a coach, they're the same. They're both as valuable as the other. So yeah, it's a trick. It's a tricky business there.
Well, because the newspapers are not newspapers now, but social media,
That's
it's,
right.
I mean, we only laud and make these big deal about the guys that scoring all the points, but they
Right.
don't like it. None of that matters without the other things. But
No,
it's
I'm the
just,
only one talking about that defender that didn't score, but he dominated the game.
no, and I think as a coach, then you have to find ways to make sure your guys feel appreciated and have the
Absolutely.
gratitude because without that, they're going to fall into that trap as well. They like it starts to be one of those things that feels like coach speak, right? That it's all like, oh, we really have to have the guys that work on the defensive system, and we got to take dive for the loose balls and stuff like that, which you need, but then you also need them to believe that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a big part of what we do as high school coaches. Sort of my pet peeve lately has been I see these like Division I big time college coaches saying if you're not going to play hard, you'll never play for me. If you're not tough, you'll never see the floor. I'm not. That's not what I do. Well, that's what we do. We teach kids to play hard. That's probably the most important thing to me. We teach kids toughness. We teach them what toughness is, and we teach that on the daily by how we act, by how consistent we are with what we do, and that is high school coaching to me. Any sport, I've coached a bunch of different sports. It's the same. It is about teaching toughness, making kids men by teaching them, accountability, but being tough and playing hard.
I love you and I love it. I love it because I hear that all the time. And you're right. It's a lot of college coaches that say, "Well, I'm not. I love to get to the point where I'm not coaching effort and attitude." I'm like, okay, well that must be nice,
Yeah, but
right?
when you can buy your players, it's a little bit different than when
Right.
we're taking the local kid and trying to turn them into men, and that's what we do.
Yeah, but I think that's what happens is you're a lot of good high school coaches. We see that and we're like, well, I'm not going to coach effort and attitude. If you don't have that, you're not playing for me. I'm like, well, you're missing a lot of opportunity with kids that
Yeah,
if you would just figure out some ways to help them develop that toughness and
yeah.
develop that attitude, and you can get so much more out of everybody. But that's where it's hard to do.
No, it's
It's
hard. Yeah, that's if I had a strength as a coach, I was consistent every day. I was prepared. I was consistent, and to me, that's what toughness is. I'm going to come to work every day. I'm going to give my best effort. We're going to be ultra prepared every day, and you're going to see that every day from me. And hopefully, you know, most of my kids at some point it worked, and they started getting consistent, and they started being tougher, and they started playing hard, and but I think that's what I was. I was if we got killed, we played terrible. I would come back the next day and be consistent. I didn't overreact, especially as I got older. I didn't overreact. I wasn't a big giving them a day off guy either, but just the consistency. Kids need to see consistent people. They need to have consistent people in their lives, and that I think that was my greatest strength as a coach.
That's great. It's whether we win or we lose, we show up
That's right.
tomorrow and we get it.
That's
And
right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
They don't want to lose. They don't. They don't want to. They hurt, and we're all hurting, and we just got to come back the next day and get better.
especially since we're talking about the game of basketball, we're talking about maybe one shot that might have been shot from 30 feet
That's right.
away is the
That's
difference. So
right.
we're gonna let that dictate whether or not we felt like it was a good game or a bad
That's
game, like
right.
one shot. And
We all see that shot, and I talk to a lot of coaches and a lot of kids, and it's really not about that shot. It's about you not sprinting back on defense in the second quarter, and they made an extra pass. And if you would have given your all there, we might not have got to that point. So playing possession, every possession matters, and all that stuff. But yeah, just that was the fun of coaching to me, is like teaching kids how to play hard and teaching kids what toughness is. It's not hitting somebody. It's being consistent.
yes,
It's going hard in warm ups. It's all the things that you don't think they're. Everybody knows the kid that dives on the loose ball and But, what about the kid that's at practice 30 minutes early every day, an hour late every day, working on his game? There's just so many things. I think Jay Billis wrote that book, 20 years
Toughness.
ago? Yeah,
Yeah.
15 years ago. And that really hit home with a lot of high school coaches I know. What is toughness? It's a lot more than being physically strong and tough.
I agree. It's more about persistence and perseverance than it is any outward
Absolutely.
thing that we see. Yeah, and it's
Absolutely.
funny you mentioned about how we can't let that one shot be the difference, because it could have been where you hustled, didn't hustle, something like that. But the same goes with the way people respond to a bad call from an official. I feel
Absolutely.
the same way. It's not one call. It's never one call.
I think if you're not coaching how to handle adversity from, you're playing a rival and the crowd's on you, or, you got a ref that we feel like's against us. How do we respond to adverse situations? And we spent a ton of time talking about dealing with referees, and, referees are human, and how you react to the referee, it could cost you a game. You getting a technical could cost you a game. And, my teams didn't get technicals because we spent so much time on it, talking about it and working on it. But yeah, kids' reactions and how they handle things. And, we'll go watch a game tonight and you'll see how grown men react. Is hard to believe at times, but that's coaching. That's what coaching is to me.
I agree. I love it. I think the fact that you spent time on it pays off. But I think, because a lot of coaches don't. They're not. They complain about it.
Right.
They complain about it. They complain about how their players react, but they don't ever talk them through it. And that's
Right. I've
about.
got a whole thing on how to work with the referees and how to show them respect. Why are these guys refereeing? Most of them are refereeing because they love basketball, love being around kids. They're not bad people. It's
No.
they're making no money and they're getting screamed at and cussed at and whatever. And you got to treat those guys with respect, and your players have to treat those guys with respect. They're going to screw up calls just like you screw up a set. And it's how you handle that is such a big part of it.
Yeah, I used to always joke I was used to be an AD, and I've got and have people coming in, they're talking about a sixth grade game, and they're talking about complaining about the official. I'm like, look, all right, so let's say that we're taking somebody like LeBron James, and he's the top of the basketball world, and your kid is a sixth grader. Like, where's he? Like, he's way, way down here, right? I said, so that official that's doing the sixth grade game, think about the top of, like, he's down there
right
too,
down there
right?
with
Like,
them.
and that's not a shot. That's not a shot at that guy. I'm just saying, it's what are you expecting,
That's
right? Like,
well, that's
and,
what
and
we're.
you,
I mean, I think that's what we're teaching that sixth grader is how to deal with adults, how to handle situations, and if I'm handling them wrong, they're probably going to handle them wrong too.
well, and I think the thing to teach is when you get that bad call, if you don't react the right way, it's affecting your play the rest of the
That's
game.
right.
And then that's
It's Coach K's next play philosophy. It's
yeah, absolutely.
that's everybody talks about it, but I don't know how many people live it. And basketball is the ultimate game of transition. If you're worried about what just happened, you might be down 7 points before you can get off the floor, before you can get a timeout,
Mm-hmm.
dead ball. I think that's a really neat thing about basketball that, maybe soccer, there's probably some other sports, hockey, but, if you react the wrong way, and as a coach or a player, if you're worried about the last play, that's the game at times. That's 5 points, 7 points that, you didn't get back on defense. You turned the ball over, whatever, because you couldn't handle it. And, being able to handle things right in the middle of the action is something else you have to coach and something else you really have to work on.
Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Mettle Coaching. Mettle is a person's ability to face adversity in a spirited and resilient manner. It is a great skill to have for athletics and for life, but it is not something we are born with. If you want it, you have to forge your mettle. And if you listen to the Mental Mettle podcast, you already know that, but not everybody else does yet. So help me out by ordering and wearing some sweet The Mental Mettle podcast gear. We've got short sleeve tees, long sleeve tees, and some super comfortable hoodies. Order online today and you can have your gear in no time. But the best part is that every order helps support the show and helps me spread the message that mental toughness is a trait that can and should be built. So find the link in the show notes, order your gear, and start showing that you know how to forge your mettle. Yeah, and when you can see those teams, those coaches and teams that do it that way, it's fun to watch.
It really is, no doubt.
Yeah. So when you get into coaching, and I want to talk a little bit about the fact, from what I've read and what I've seen, you were very much a defensive coach, right? I mean, obviously it's an offensive game. You have to score points. Clearly.
Yeah, but I lean to the defensive side of it because of my upbringing. That's what I'm really good at and comfortable with.
Talk to me about the connection. Like anytime that somebody says a coach or a team is very defensive, the next word they're going to put out there is tough, right? Oh, they got these very good defensive tough teams,
yeah.
Right? What is it with the connection there?
Well, I think what we've been working with Seth's team on is you have to, especially these days, in the last so many years, I guess since I was growing up, we spent a lot of time in the backyard being really physical, whether it was playing tackle football, playing all-out basketball, playing physical sports in the backyard and at school, whatever. And a lot of these kids, they're not growing up like that. So we have to, as a defensive coach, I'm a man-to-man defensive coach. I didn't really play zone. You have to teach kids how to use their chest, because at the end of the day, when the rubber meets the road, you're going to have to stop the ball, stop the man with your body. And we spend a ton of time, not with your arms, not with your hands, with your body. And we spend a ton of time working on that skill of cutting people off with your body. In high school, you go to the state tournament, all of a sudden you get a ref that calls any kind of hands check, arm check. So we're working on playing the way we can play to win a state championship. So, teaching kids how to use their chest and how to be physical. We used to be real big on taking charges. We're not as much as we used to be, because I don't want to be passive with my chest. I want to be aggressive with my chest. And that is not normal. That is not normal when I go at clinics and show these coaches, and, people aren't really working on it like we work on it. The term throw your chest and be physical. And, it goes to cutting the ball off. Nobody cuts across the paint without being hit, or however you want to say it. Being physical, the play's not over until the ball is rebounded. We never stop a drill until we get a rebound. So everything that we do offensively sort of turns into defense, is about the physical, is about the tough, is about finishing the play. And, I think that's sort of what it is. The really good teams, They're going to build a wall. They're going to have a brick wall when you try to score. They're going to wall up. They're going to do all those things that aren't easy. And, getting good at the things that are hard. And, we start every day working on that stuff, sometimes without a ball a little bit. And it paid off for us. It's paying off for some teams I'm working with now, I feel like, too.
So when you, in your coaching days, when you would have you start at the beginning of the year, I mean, of course you've got kids that are returners, so they know what you're about. But when you start reaching kids for the first time, you talk about how you're right, they don't grow up playing quite as tough as we did. And I don't know that that's good or bad. It's just different.
It is what it is. Right?
Yeah. When, like, what's the process like to get a kid to realize that they have to, like you say, throw your chest, or when you go into these new high schools and they've never done any of that?
Yeah, that's been interesting because I'm working with a girls team. I'm working with freshmen. I haven't done that. I've never worked with a girls team. I've raised 2 daughters, but and I haven't worked with freshmen. Our freshmen were sort of a separate team. So my teams were 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. So yes, it's been really fun to break it down because, like you said, we had sort of built the program, and the new kids would come up and learn it by not really me teaching it as much as watching how their peers, the older kids, did it. So yeah, teaching the drills to a girls team or teaching the drills to a freshman team, I've really had to slow down and really had to break it down into, really the technique of it that I haven't done as much the last many years. And that has been really enjoyable. But being patient and, sort of seeing it build and seeing it grow within these teams has been pretty incredible to me. It's been really good for me, and I think it's been good for the teams too. But yeah, that's a great point because I wasn't really thinking about that when I started working with these teams. These ninth graders, they're like, they've never seen anything like that. These girls.
Oh, it's got to be like, yeah, it's like
it's foreign. It's like speaking Spanish, and I've got all this terminology that I use, and that's how I spoke to my teams. And all of a sudden, it's a foreign language, and really breaking it down and getting them to understand it has been it's been good for me.
And that's kind of what a question I had about as you go in and do some consulting work with schools about defense. Like, there's no trick, but what's more important? Is it like their physical ability, their technique, or is it mindset for them to be able to learn how to, like, is it mentally or physical ability to be able to pull up this type of defensive?
It's mental. I mean, it's mental, when, a lot of the teams I'm working with right now are great shooting teams. And I've had some good shooting teams. I've coached some great shooters, but nobody's like Coach Allen's teams are great shooting teams. That's not what my teams were known for, but a lot of these teams are. And to watch them work with their shooters and how everything is perfect, it's real similar to what we're doing on defense. It's just that's their focus. I'm sort of getting off topic, but
no, I love the connection there because every coach can break down. Some are better than others, but every coach can break down what the proper shot technique is.
Right.
But what you're talking about is putting looking at technique on how to wall up, and not everybody does that.
No, it's like talking to coaches, and I'm telling them, you got to have an angle when you wall up. Your hands have to be perpendicular. Your chest needs to be stuck out. You foul with your knees, not your hands, and all the little things that are important. Well, I watch these coaches working with shooters, and God, they're shooting for an hour of practice where we shot maybe for 20 minutes of practice. but it's not just shooting, them going and working with those guys on their technique on a daily basis. It's the same thing. It's just that's been their focus. And now a lot of these teams want to take it to the next level and get better defensively. And sort of that's where I come in, I guess, and try to help them in that regard. But, it's a different mindset when you start practice every day doing what we call rapid closeouts. And rapid closeouts turns into, you're in help and you're attacking the man if he beats the ball handler, and you're attacking him with your chest. So we're not starting out shooting 100 shots. We're starting out stopping the ball. And that's, it's just a different way to go about it, but it's really interesting. There's no right way for sure, but that's the way that I believe. And that's, it all comes back to, I think, our personality as a coach. I'm not Rick Pitino. I'm not 3-piece suit guy. I'm just a normal kid from Creve Hall that loved ball and worked hard at it and loved it. And that's how I coach. It's not about the pretty. It's not about it's just about going to work every day.
I love one of my jobs as a coach, the mental coach. I'm working with people. I'm always listening for the way people phrase things and the way people say things, because it gives me insight into their mindset and what they're saying. And when you say that we're working on when somebody beats somebody off the wall, off their man, and we attack the dribbler with our chest. The fact that you use the word attack, right? Most people think defend. Like I've coached some man principles and things like that, but it's usually about just stopping somebody and getting in front of them. You're talking about attacking the guy with the ball.
We call that fire when we're the help guy. The most important guys. Coach Massey's calls him. But when we're the attack guy and we see daylight, the dribbler beats the guy on the wing, we call it fire. We yell fire, and we know we're coming. So we're coming. We're firing. Your house is on fire. This is important. And so we're coming, and we want to be the aggressor. I really feel like in offense versus defense in basketball, somebody's going to win the one-on-one battle, and it's going to be usually the more physical guy. So as the defender, am I going to let that guy lower his shoulder and knock me back? Or me as the defender, am I going to use my chest and knock him back? And, that's a lot of it to me. That's a really important thing. But, teaching kids the importance of that and getting kids to do that is a whole different animal.
I just love the way you phrase it and the way you say things. And it had to be you were probably a very frustrating team to play against.
Yeah, we're real comfortable playing 39-37. It's a lot of people aren't, but we're fine there. We're fine. I wish we would score more, but we're good. We're good playing in the mud.
But that's the thing, is if you have to be, there's only so many practice hours in a day, right?
That's right.
And if you're gonna be good at defense, your offense is probably gonna struggle a little bit.
You can't be good at everything. You can't. And I think we all have our focuses on what we want to be good at, but it's we've got to make a decision as a coach, what we are and what we're going to be. And some of the best coaches I've ever coached against played a 1-3-1 zone and back tapped you, and or played half court trap or whatever, or shot it in 5 seconds. And it's all about being able to put whatever pressure you're going to put on the other team, whatever you believe. And there's just a lot of ways to do it, and this is sort of my way.
Yeah, I think when I early on in my coaching, I worked under a guy, Mitch Holmgren, and he ended up being an AD, and I was an AD at the same time, and we would always have these conversations about how to judge how well a coach is coaching his team. And he said the one thing he always looked for was, as this unattached observer, if I can show up to a game and I can, not whether if they're successful or winning the game, but can I tell what they're trying to do?
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And can I tell what they're practicing on? Can I tell what their communication? Are they all trying to do the same thing? Because if they're doing that long enough and practicing enough at it, they're going to be successful.
I agree 100%. And
yeah,
that was one of the when somebody comes up to you, you're at a game wherever you are, and they say, coach, your team is really guard. That's the ultimate compliment to a guy like me.
Sure.
We guard, and it's nice that people believe that. It's nice that me and my coaches, we're never tough enough. We're never physical enough. But then you start talking to other coaches, and like that's y'all the most physical team we play against. It's a great compliment.
So here's going to be kind of the $1 million question of the episode. And you mentioned it, that the kids don't grow up playing quite as rough as we used to. Just didn't have the backyard football and playing.
Have anything else to do? I don't think.
Playing games to 21 where fouls weren't called. And you talk about having to develop some toughness of that, but it goes for mental toughness as well. How do you deal with players today? And I don't think anybody would argue with this. They're not as mentally tough. They're a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for, Coach? I don't want to say soft, but they're definitely more affected by negative and some harsh criticism. How did you start to deal with that? Because you coached 30 years, which means you saw that progression. You saw that change. What did you notice about that? Yeah.
It's obviously the evolution of social media. What these kids do is out for the whole world to see, 5 minutes later, and them being able to deal with that is, it's a tricky situation at times. And, I think what I did, the longer I coached, I spent a lot more time talking to kids individually, not just as a group. Obviously we talk to them as a group, but having individual meetings, having, group meetings, senior meetings, all different kind of meetings, and, sort of going there with, what is bothering you, what is important to you, and spending that time on sort of getting sort of understanding where they're coming from. I was talking to a coach the other day, and when I saw 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I would see a kid not compete or quit or just not really react the way I wanted them to, I always thought that was a real selfish act, and the kid didn't want to play, the kid didn't want to be tough, or he was soft, or whatever. And it took me a while to understand that a lot of times it's self-confidence that's showing itself in a certain way, and that really was hard for me to figure out and to understand that he's not really being defiant. He's like down on himself. He's not trying not to do what you want him to do. He's, his confidence is shook, and it's a lot more than it used to be, like you said. And, I just think you have to go there, and you have to be there, and you have to support them, and you really have to try to help them, figure out that you're on their side. Like we said at the start of this show, I'm on your side. Let's do what we can to figure it out and get over it, or get better from it, or whatever.
I love that answer. The self-confidence or lack of self-confidence, and the fear and the anxiety and the pressure, it manifests itself different in different kids.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know what they're living on the daily. We don't know. And, figuring kids out and working with them is, that's another big part of what we do as high school coaches.
It really bothers me when I hear some old coaches will say things like, well, we were a lot tougher in my day and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it is not your world anymore.
That's right. It's not. It's a different deal. It's 100%. If they would have had cameras when we were growing up, my gosh, we wouldn't be on this podcast probably right now. It wouldn't have been good.
No, it's they are living in a different world with a lot more scrutiny, a lot more pressures. There's some good things about basketball and sports these days. It's great. It's better than it's ever been, but there's some negatives to it. And that's the thing. You have to account for those things, I think.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. 100%.
Yeah. So I just love the conversation, Coach. Anything else we've missed, or any other? What's the be all end all? What is the advice you want to give that we haven't teased out in this conversation?
Yeah, yeah, every kid's a little bit different. It's as a coach, we can't pigeonhole them. We have to work with who we get, and we've got to figure them out a little bit. At the end of the day, all of my buddies that are in coaching, we're really trying to put 5 guys on the floor, 12 guys in the program that care about what we're trying to do and that get after it and play hard. And I think one word we hadn't really used is being a competitor. And, that's what it's about. Am I going to compete every possession? And it all goes back to, as a coach, how we handle the weight room. Is it serious or is it a joke? How we handle conditioning, how they act in school. It goes back to the little things that matter. The little things that are the big things. And I think the great coaches deal with those little things and make them the big things. And when kids realize that turning your jersey inside out and putting it in the laundry hamper is just as important as making 2 free throws or playing in the state tournament or whatever. You got something going then. If you leave, we've all been there. The team leaves the locker room a mess, and if you don't even have to worry about that because your guys are going to take care of all that little stuff. You're even if you don't win, even if you don't win all your games, you're doing it right. You're doing something right. You're making a difference in people's lives. And, at the end of the day, I think that's what we do. We're trying to make a positive influence on these kids and, help them mature and turn them into men. And one thing we didn't ever do is probably not ever, but we tried not to do is we tried not to make the big game the big game. We tried to make the day the big day. And, every day is big, and then you get into a situation where, you are playing in a sub-state game. You're not too big for it because yesterday's practice was a big day, and just emphasizing the daily work and the daily. Every day's big, every possession's big, everything is big. Nothing's too small for me to do as a player, as a person.
Love it. Success and failure aren't grand things. Success and failure are the completing the minute things all the time,
Absolutely.
every day. That's
and I think we've all been, as coaches. I had a team 3 or 4 years ago. We had 6 or 7 seniors, and we were good. We won 20 games. We didn't win any championships. We didn't do anything that people on the outside would see as special. But gosh, I'll never forget that group. We've all had that group that, well, they came to work every day and they tried to do it right every day. And they competed against teams that were better than them and competed and fought every day. And, those guys as a coach, that's as important as state tournament, region championships. Those teams where you get those guys that really buy in and you watch them grow up and watch them mature, and hopefully you're a little bit a part of it. Those are the special things for a coach.
Yeah, I think that it's, as a coach, the teams that you like and the teams that you got the most fulfillment out of weren't necessarily the best teams. Sometimes they coincide, but not always.
Sure.
Yeah. So, well, we're about out of time here, Coach. Is there any question I should have asked you that I didn't?
Nothing that I can think of. I appreciate what you're doing, and it's I've always thought that there needs to be a position in every school system, and not the athletic director position, but a coach somebody that coaches the coaches, somebody that helps the coaches. I've actually tried to start that position in our county, and I've been shot down so far, but somebody that really goes in and supports coaches and sends them a letter when they do well, or is there to help new coaches, or somebody that's really there for the coaches. We have all these positions in the school systems now where there's an English coach and there's a social studies coach and there's a this and there's a that. But I think 30% of my numbers could be off a little bit, but not far. 30% to 40% of all teachers coach something, and there's not a coach for the coach. And I think if we could get that position in every school, I think it'd be a huge deal, because 30% coach and 75% of those coaches are teaching because they coach. And it's such an important deal. And our school systems sometimes want to act like, you're not an educator, you're not this, you're not that, which is, obviously not true. So, I've always thought that position would be a big deal in every school system. But it's sort of what you're doing, it's sort of what you're doing in your life. And I just think that the director of schools I talked to was really interested in it. Getting it funded is another thing, how that
It is. I think that I work with a superintendent in a school now that he started to do that, and he brings me in to work with PD for his coaches,
that's
because
incredible.
he says, and he's right. He's like, what better representation when people see your school? What brings most people into your school? It's not the spelling bee.
It's football season from day one.
It's football season. It's basketball season. That is when most people come into your school, right or wrong. But that's where our society is. And I think that's, if you want to put your best foot forward as a district, the best place to put your money is into your coaches and putting out the product that your community says, hey, I really enjoy watching these kids compete because they're doing it the right way.
That's right. And you want to be represented the right way, however you want your school system to be represented by that coach. And if there's somebody working with him, it's the athletic director, the county athletic director to coach is a lot of times just adversarial. They come in when you get a technical or you get thrown out of a game. I want to be the guy that helps you not get to that point. This is how we don't get to that point. This is how we don't embarrass the school, yourself, your family, whatever. And I just think there's a spot for it that could really help. And I think, I'd be pretty good at it. And obviously you're doing some of it already. And,
that's the big, you have the big messes at the school board meetings is when it's over a coach.
That's every time.
Right? It's every time. So it's like a little bit of prevention there and a little bit of coaching and teaching would be really useful.
We're hiring all these non-faculty coaches now because, it's a tough gig. People aren't wanting to coach like they used to, and they don't know anything about education, a lot of them. So somebody that can nip things in the bud before they happen and really help these guys as they are non-faculty coaches would be a huge deal. But, that's sort of my soapbox these days is, coaches are important to the school. And if you didn't have coaches, you'd be short of a lot of teachers. And, most coaches I know are doing the job in the classroom. They're doing the job on the field, court, whatever. And, I just think that, if we would have some more support, it would be a better thing for everybody involved.
You're right, but it's the culture, it's the stigma
that's right,
and it's a monetary thing. It is. It's funding and all that, but but I think it would pay for itself.
There's no doubt in my mind it would.
Yeah. So, Coach, it's been a absolute pleasure talking to you. Really, really enjoy you coming on. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, we will keep in touch, Coach. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship, kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Metal Coaching. Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they could still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great. They're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Metal Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website and get started on the journey to a more confident and successful athlete with Mental Metal Coaching.
So again, a fantastic episode with Troy Allen. And when you pick up, and I mentioned it in the episode, he speaks with different terminology that really keys you into what he's about. So when he was talking about attacking the offensive player, like that's different terminology. And seeing, usually when we say about attacking, that's like an offensive thing. We want to attack the rim, attack the hoop, attack our man from an offensive standpoint. He's talking about attacking from a defensive standpoint. That changes a mindset. And it's no surprise his teams were so defensively sound, because that was their focus. One, you talk about how he started practice with defense and that's what they worked on. But then his terminology and the way he talked was all about defense. And you can be the kind of coach you want to be. If you want to be like, maybe you want to be more offensive, that's fine. But then that has to be what you focus on in practice. You have to have your focus there. Your terminology has to fit that. And that has to be what you believe in. And be whatever kind of coach you want to be, but make sure it fits you and make sure that that is your focus. And then also, you can't be all that upset. Like he said, we like winning games 39-37. Well, I'm sure he would like to win them 50-37, but that's just not the way they were. Like if you wanted to be a good defensive team, you probably might struggle a little bit offensively. And you have to be okay with that and be, mature enough to understand that we can't be great at everything. I also really enjoyed, he's one of the first coaches that I've really talked to that said that without prompting, when he was talking about the idea that it's, yes, you do have to teach and you have to coach effort and attitude. Way too many coaches think that. They're like, well, I'm not coaching effort and attitude. You have to have that. And you have to come at me with that. And then I'll coach basketball. Good luck. Good luck with that, right? It is not that easy, and you will never be that lucky as a coach. And I know that college coaches say that too, but they can recruit that. But I can guarantee you they're still getting kids that need some development in their attitude and their effort. I guarantee they need it. And I know that it would be great if they all came into our programs with 100% effort and the perfect attitude. Of course. If that was the case, of course you would be a better teacher and a better coach and have a better season. Of course it would. It doesn't happen that way. And it's also, if you think about it that way and you say, well, that's an effort thing and I'm not going to coach that. You're not. Look, I know that you're a basketball coach, or I know that you're a baseball coach or a football coach. It's fine. That's what you're there to coach, but that's not what you're there to coach. You're there to coach effort and attitude. You're there to mold young men and women. That's your goal. Most of the people listen to this, I can imagine high school, junior high, maybe even some college coaches. Look, you are there to mold young men and women. Do not forget that. If they don't have the proper attitude and effort, do not wash your hands with them. Help them develop it. It makes your practice better. It makes you better if you start learning how to teach those things. And that really needs to be the goal of your practice, your program, your career, is helping kids develop that. And you might say, well, I know how to run shooting drills. I know how to run fast break drills. I know how to run defensive drills. I don't necessarily know how to run drills to develop toughness and attitude other than just have it happen on its own, or just yell at them till they get tougher, which is how they used to do it. Well, luckily, there's a lot of things you can do. There's books you can read. There's podcasts you can listen to. There's people that you can hire to come in to learn some of these drills just like you could learn anything else. That's what I do. I come in, I work with individual athletes, I work with teams, I do some coaching of coaches, I do some professional development. I have a program called Ember to Inferno, which is all about that, about helping coaches learn more about positive psychology on how they can help their teams get better, help their players get better. That's what I do. And if that sounds like a commercial, maybe it is. But if you're there and you're like, okay, I know that my kids need better effort and attitude and toughness, but I don't know how to develop it. Well, you do what you do. You go find a resource that can help you, and then you build on that. And I do that in a lot of ways. I come in and work with a team. You can hire me to come in and work with your team, or you can hire me to come in and do professional development with your coaches. Coach Troy Allen is starting to do some of the same thing. I'll put some of his information in the show notes here. He's doing the same thing. You could have him come work with your team, with your coaches. We're both coming with the same idea that the coaches need some support on how to do this the right way to come out with the product that they want. And that doesn't necessarily mean winning seasons. It means the product, meaning helping the kids be their best version of themselves. And of course, if you can do that, then the product is going to be winning seasons. But that's really one of the things we need to be looking for. Is it's exactly what you should be doing, is learning how to teach that effort and attitude. And in that, if you can teach them that effort and attitude, and then also teach them to run some plays and play a kind of defense, more power to you. And that's good. But I think that you've got to have that mindset that this is part of your job. And I don't want you to think that, oh man, do I have to do this? No, this should be the fun part of doing it. Because if you can help them better understand how to operate with the right positive attitude and given the effort, your practices are not going to be you butting heads with your players and being difficult. Your practices are going to be more fun, more uplifting, more fulfilling for everybody. It's going to help you enjoy your job better overall. And that's, just more job fulfillment. If everybody's getting better at, the positive aspects of life, it's going to help. And I know it's getting a little bit cheesy and feeling it, but I'm telling you, it's so much more fun if you can feel the energy in a practice when everybody is positive versus everybody's negative. And the coaches that do that for years and just run these negative practices, they're really not a lot of fun to be around. And and you hear Coach Troy Allen figuring that out in the last 10 of his 30 years, that to figure out that he's on the same side of his players. Imagine, right? And that means for 20 years, he felt like it was adversarial and he was butting heads with his players. This is no fun. Feeling like you are on the same page as your players, as your parents, as the district, and we're all moving in the same direction. You're ahead of that, of that ship, but everybody's on the same ship, going in the oars all going in the same direction. It's just a lot more fun. So again, this has been a great podcast. I'm kind of like, it's one of that interview is one of them that really makes me enjoy what I'm doing and make me feel real positive about the message I'm getting out there. So it's really good. Glad I was able to meet and talk with Coach Troy Allen. So as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for liking. Thanks for commenting. I appreciate all of it and want you to keep it up. So this has been the Mental Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and always remember to forge your metal.
Thanks again for listening to the Mental Metal Podcast, produced by Coraggio Media, sponsored by QuickCut, a video management platform for every level of play, and by Mental Metal Coaching, helping athletes learn to face adversity in a spirited and resilient way. The Mental Metal Podcast is created each week to help players develop more mental toughness, and that is something that will help all of us. So help me out and like and share the Mental Metal Podcast with your friends. Until next time, keep forging your metal.